Hello, hello, hello. Here we are doing a book reading and book signing virtual. Wonderful. I'm so glad that this horrible virus that's going around cannot keep us from celebrating this wonderful event. I'm so excited to share with you my favorite stories and um, pieces from the book, the sections from the book, both from the original edition as well as this new edition. And so it is just thrilling to be able to be with you together and have this event and celebrate this 10th anniversary of my baby. My baby's growing up. So, just a couple of things before we get started. The first one is this is also a book signing. So, our team, we got together and we really strategized about how do we best do a virtual book signing when the books are not coming from us, they're actually coming from Amazon. And so, what we've decided to do is very simple. It's three steps. So, the first step is you're going to print out or scan or screenshot a copy of your receipt from your purchase at Amazon. So that's step number one. Step number two is you're going to send that receipt along with what you would like signed in your book. What sentiment would you like to have? And I'll be happy to sign that for you. You're going to send what it is that you want signed in your book to concierge at drmariachurch.com. That's concierge at drmariachurch.com. And of course, we'll put those directions for you in the comments as well so that you'll see that. All right, so that was step one and step two. So, step one was the screenshot or scan of your purchase from Amazon. Step two is what you would like, the sentiment that you would like in your book for your signing. And the third one is your mailing address so that we can send you your signature or my signature, your sentiment on a sticker. And that will be mailed to you so that when your book arrives from Amazon, you can just open your book, you can take that sticker and you can put it right in there. And it's the next best thing to us being together. So those three simple steps, and then your book will be signed. So that was the first announcement that I had before we get into the book reading. The second one is my publisher, Dudley Court Press, has pledged to donate a percentage of sales from all the pre-orders that we and you and us have been doing, as well as the launch day sales, which is Tuesday, December 8th. So a portion of all of those sales are going to Tohono Chul Gardens and Gallery. And they asked me what organization I would like that donation to go to. And I'll tell you, it's very special why I chose that Tohono Chul Gallery and Gardens. My father recently passed away in February of this year, and he was an extraordinary artist. And he loved more than anything being in the Southwest. In fact, one of his early paintings was a desert landscape when he was living in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and had never been to the Southwest. So it had always been in his blood and in his soul. And he lived the vast majority of his life in the desert Southwest, and he loved the desert. So the book release is on Dad's birthday, which is December 8th. So it's just doubly special. And I couldn't think of an organization that celebrated what Dad loved more than Southwestern and art because they have beautiful, beautiful galleries. So thank you to Dudley Court Press for pledging that percentage of sales to go to Tohono Chul Gardens and Gallery. And I'm so moved by their pledge to do that that we're also going to be matching Dudley Court Press's donation to Tohono Chul. So I thank you all for your part in that, and I think Dad's probably thanking you too and smiling down on all of us for celebrating him in that way. Okay. Oh, hi, Pam. Hi, Marie. I'm so glad you guys are here. How exciting. Wonderful. Okay, so let's get started. I'm so excited to share this with you. Okay, so the 10th anniversary edition, publisher had asked me to write the 10th anniversary and to celebrate all the work that we've been doing over the last 10 years, which has just been phenomenal. I mean, to date, this is some of the work that I'm most proud of doing. And in the last 10 years, my journey in different parts of the world, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of love-based leaders, and it just warms my heart to see this movement. You know, my personal mission is to transform the workplace from fear to love, and so to see this in action is it's thrilling, to say the least. All right, so let's get into this. So I went through and I marked some of my favorite excerpts that I want to share with you all. And actually, the very first one that I want to share with you is from the foreword. I had met a couple of years back Darren Atterbury, who is the city manager of Fort Collins, Colorado. And Darren and I immediately connected. We were both speaking at a conference. And of course, I was speaking on leading with love and love-based leadership. And Darren was talking about love at work as well, and loving your city and loving your workplace. And I just sat there and I thought, oh my gosh, we have got to connect. And we did. And we ended up having a follow-on conversation, a very long conversation about our thoughts and beliefs about leading with love. And it was just wonderful. Have you ever met those people where you felt like you knew them and that you were instantly connected? And Darren, I swore, is my brother from another mother. We were just so like-minded and so excited about the whole idea of leading with love. And so I asked Darren when the time came to put together the 10th anniversary edition. I asked Darren if he would consider writing the foreword. And he did, and we were both just so thrilled at his participation in this. So he wrote a lovely, very poignant foreword, and we had many conversations about why the timing of this re-released book and the whole idea of leading with love, how the timing of this was so important at this stage of our evolution and where we're at as humans. And so this is a portion of his foreword that I want to share with you. In this year, when so much is beyond our control, it can be tempting to grasp for what we can control and revert to leading from a place of power and fear. But there's enough fear in the world right now. What has gotten us through 2020 and will continue to guide us forward is our human connection and care for one another. When the world is scary, what is most needed in our dialogue is love. Oh, and I love that. Now you can see why we connected so well, because definitely we have similar thoughts. Okay, so those of you that may have had the first edition, you knew that you would know that I had a preface to that edition. Well, I wrote a preface to the 10th anniversary edition as well. And I wrote the preface in April of this year. So we had already been pretty much at the stay-at-home orders. Everything was shut down now for about a month and a half, coming on 2 months when I wrote this preface. So that will put it into perspective. I find myself in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis, plagued with fear, love, hope, sadness, relief, anticipation, creativity, and a myriad of other emotions, all in the same short span of an hour. How do I write about leading with love when I sit in sadness or fear? Yesterday, I had to drop off some papers for my husband at work. He was at his office as he provides an essential service. Driving through our small rural community, I was struck by the eerie sight of carless parking lots and closed businesses. A wall of sadness enveloped me, while tears blinded my ability to see. So many hopes of business owners have evaporated, or worse, turned into dark clouds of broken dreams and mounting debt. Later that day, I watched one of my clients, a city manager of a nearby municipality, deliver his first virtual employee town hall to thousands of worried employees. When asked if the city was planning layoffs, he valiantly and lovingly said that he did not know. How can I write about leading with love when I don't know where we're going? What I do know is that in times of crisis, we look to leadership to answer 1, where are we headed? 2, how are we going to get there? And 3, how is the leader going to get us there and keep us safe? Just as the city manager honestly stated, I too do not know exactly where we're headed. I do know that we are in a state of chaos, which means that we're in a state of reorganizing matter. I do know that we get to help shape what that reorganization of matter looks like. I do know that if we shape it from a place of love instead of fear, that place will be much more desirable and life-giving. How are we going to get there? I do know for sure that in order to get to a place that is better than before COVID-19, we must do so with intention and strategy. Mindfulness in how we get there is more important than ever before. We need to be proactive in this strategy of creating a new way of living. If we don't, then someone else will. Hi, Lynn. I'm so glad that you're joining us. Wonderful. Okay, so let's move on a little bit to in the introduction. One of my favorite topics is talking about meaning. While we look for meaning in our lives at work, home, and play, until we begin to find that meaning, we're unsettled. Did you ever notice how challenges in our lives cause us to ask, why? We ask because we want to make sense of the situation. We want to understand the meaning behind the event so we can move on. When we don't find meaning, we become disillusioned, lack motivation, and find substitutes for meaningful experiences. Sometimes we choose unhealthy or destructive substitutes. Some of us go through the motions and become human doings instead of human beings. Some of us succumb to overwhelming stress when we believe we are living a meaningless life. Even worse, some of us give up on life when we perceive our lives to lack meaning. I remember a discussion I had with the general manager of a regional division on the topic of the importance of finding meaning in work for the employees and the leaders. His response was, I think meaning is overrated. Overrated? We spend the vast majority of our adult lives at work. One of the primary purposes of a leader is to inspire vision and motivation in those he or she leads. Few things are more inspiring and motivating than meaningful work. So I'm asked a lot of times, what was your motivating factor in writing this model, in writing this book and developing this model of leadership? And, I have to tell you, it was really because I didn't see really a whole lot of models, any models out there for leadership that were holistic in nature, that really celebrated our mind, body, and spirit. And I knew meaningful work was very important to me. And I honestly have to say that it was shortly after this exchange with this senior leader in our organization who said, meaning was overrated at work. I have to say that really began the journey of this desire and quest to find more in work and leadership for myself, and put me on the path of continuing my education and earning my doctorate and being able to actually formulate this leadership model. The funny thing is, as I was formulating this at the university, I got a lot of resistance and pushback for actually making this my dissertation study, which was my intention. And finally, after sheer frustration because so many faculty members were not supporting it, I I jokingly say I pinned the dean against the wall, but it's not too far from the truth. And I just, out of sheer frustration, I said, please tell me why I'm getting so much resistance in developing this model for my dissertation. And she looked me square in the eyes and she said, this is a very important leadership model, and I believe and support that you need to put this out there in the world. But you have to wait until you have doctor in front of your name, because the idea of love in leadership is too controversial, and the university won't support it. So, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe that we were having an advanced discussion of leadership, and yet we couldn't talk about the most powerful force on the planet, which is love. So I went on to write in this introduction. I find it both interesting and curious that some thought the word love would confuse people. Some said people would think it's sexual. Well, do we always associate love and sex? I believe we are too intelligent a species to make that exclusive association. To understand love at a deeper level, let's first look at the antithesis of love: fear. Fear is almost as powerful as love, and certainly easier to fall into for many of us. Fear is distrust, disbelief, and ignorance. Historically, fear has been a powerful means of motivating others. Fear has moved the masses into action or retreat. Fear has moved multitudes of people to non-action and apathy. Fear is a formidable force, yet fear can leave as quickly as the snap of a finger. So in my book, I do talk a lot about fear juxtaposed to love, because it is the antithesis of love. And so I think it's a very important discussion whenever we talk about love-based leadership, that we also talk about fear so that we can recognize it. One of my favorite things in this book is I bring in different quotes from other people to help emphasize a concept or idea, or to introduce one of the new sections of the book. And so in section 1, which is how did we get here, I have two favorite quotes from the book that I want to share with you. The first one is from Lao Tzu from 600 BC. Water is fluid, soft, and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. As a rule, whatever is fluid, soft, and yielding will overcome whatever is rigid and hard. There is another paradox. What is soft is strong. There is another paradox. What is soft is strong. Just love that. And then a complimentary quote from Anthony J. D'Angelo. Have a strong mind and a soft heart. Anyway, I love those two quotes. Just love them. Another favorite part of the book, and I had this in the first book as well as in this revised edition, because I think it's really puts an exclamation point on the whole idea of finding meaningful work and how important that is for us as working adults, because we spend such a big part of our life working. And so this part that is one of my favorites is a poem that I wrote many years ago called I Have Arrived. I've done it. I accomplished whatever mom and dad told me I could do. I have arrived. As the firstborn of a pre-baby boomer couple, my parents always told me to do what makes me happy and remember that I could accomplish anything. They supported my desire to pursue acting. They supported my desire to study sign language interpretation. I liked the dramatic flair. And then they encouraged my business drive. My mother always had a career. She broke through many glass ceilings and earned great respect in her profession. She was my inspiration to break on through to the other side. I have arrived. When I moved up in my organization and took on more responsibility, I tripled my income over a 9-month period. In addition to the money, I earned great respect and a place at the table with the men. 4 men and little old me. I had a place at the table in a predominantly all-male industry. I have arrived. I changed my wardrobe, hair, and personal style. After all, I was in senior management. I have arrived. I worked 80 hours a week. I was dealing in hundreds of thousands of dollars daily. I was getting little sleep with the worry, yet I felt important and needed. The men in my organization had come to depend on me and my opinion. I have arrived. I started to show symptoms of extreme stress. On my 40th birthday, the doctor put me on blood pressure medicine and told me that I needed to exercise more. I had been working long hours and my eating habits were atrocious. Fast food, eaten even faster, became the norm. I took up smoking as a stress reliever. Yes, I'm an educated woman, and yes, I know the hazards of smoking. I've arrived. One day on my back patio after a long day at work, with a martini in one hand and a cigarette in the other, I had a thought. I have a place at the table. I have earned respect for my hard work and knowledge. I have an awesome 6-figure income. I have everything the successful men have had for decades. I have 30 extra pounds. I have a high-level position. I have a stressful job. I have a beautiful home. I have high blood pressure. I have a drink in one hand and a cigarette in the other. Oh my God, I do have it all. I have arrived. But just exactly, where am I? One of my favorite parts of the book. And so you can see that, we're I was striving and achieving, and yet it lacked meaning, lacked a lot of meaning. So, these are a lot of factors that contributed to my journey to bring me to the point of actually developing this model. Okay, another reading that I have that I wanted to share with you is about communication. When organizations are not forthcoming with information and lack open employee communication, an air of distrust and feeling of unimportance is present in the minds of the employees. Nearly every organization with whom I work consistently tells me about their top 2 challenges: communication and trust. Employees just want leaders to be honest and open, and to remember that open communication does not go in only one direction. It must go both ways. Employees also want their voices heard and acknowledged for the value and information they bring to the table. And sometimes I think as leaders, we often forget not only to tap into our teams for their knowledge and their ideas and creativity and innovation, but I think sometimes as leaders, we think that we have to have all the answers. And that's just such a limiting belief, because we don't have all the answers. And secondly, we have this tremendous resource of our employees and people around us that can contribute so much. I can't even begin to tell you what I learn from people on my team daily. Daily. All right, let's see. Here's another one. This is from the new edition, or one of the editions. Leading people in the wake of the economic collapse, COVID-19, and broken systems requires a different model of leadership. What has worked for us in the past isn't working for us today and won't work for us tomorrow. We need to see with new eyes, an open heart, and a new reality in leadership. And so you'll find as you read the book that this is really a call to action. It's really a call to not only develop your own leadership, competencies, but also to really recognize that we require a new type of leadership today, and to be a part of that, hopefully. Another one of my favorite, mm, another one of my favorite concepts to talk about and to read is perceptions. And I love talking about perceptions and perception shifting and expanding our perceptions. So here's just a small excerpt about perceptions. Our perceptions create our reality. Many philosophers have espoused this concept for centuries. I've always loved Plato's analogy of the cave. Plato described the fear of the people in the cave when they saw distorted images projected on the wall by light emanating from a fire. These images were frightening, like monsters. And once the people left the cave, they saw reality and non distorted images. Our willingness to view from a different lens does not imply mastery, only the readiness to change our perceptions. Like the darkness in the cave, when we stumble around, bumping into things and hurting ourselves, we're in one reality. Only when we find the light switch in the room and turn it on can we see what we've bumped into. The new reality is that once we turn the light switch on, we can never live in darkness again. I love talking about perceptions. Okay, so one of the chapters that that I've expanded quite a bit in the book is just the overview, the introduction, so to speak, to the 3 pillars of leadership, which each one of those pillars now is addressed in their own chapter. So I took a really deep dive in those 3 pillars of love-based leadership. And so in the chapter Leading with Love, where I give that intro before we dive into the 3 pillars, I want to read to you from that. Love is not new. It's not a fad. Love is the core, the foundation of our very essence. If I asked you to point to yourself, you would probably point to your heart, your chest area. The heart represents our core. Think about when we want to put emphasis on an important statement. I speak from my heart, or I put my heart into it. These statements represent authenticity, the authentic you. Leading with love-based leadership, or LBL model, we find meaning, authenticity, value, abundance, and purpose in and through our leadership. Those we lead find motivation, creativity, loyalty, commitment to the task, and value in their jobs. And then I describe fear-based leadership, really flesh that out. Before we get into the love-based leadership model, we must understand the power of fear-based leadership. Fear in the workplace has been a standard operating procedure, the modus operandi, the way we've done business for a long time. We learn fear-based leadership and models of motivation through manipulation, scare tactics, and threats. The truth is that these strategies and techniques work. Well, sort of. The use of fear is a motivator, with the resultant instant gratification of seeing people move immediately in the direction you want to see. However, fear comes with a price. Fear is not sustainable. When we lead with fear, we immediately lose any trust from our employees or customers, which leads to lack of loyalty and commitment. Employees who experience fear in the workplace plan their escape both literally and figuratively. Literally, they leave the organizations for safer places to work. The cost of employee turnover is tremendous, resulting in overworked employees, lost knowledge, training costs, interviewing and recruiting costs, and loss of credibility. Figuratively, employees leave organizations by checking out or planning their escape. They become disengaged, disillusioned, and demotivated. Employees who check out are neither productive nor motivated. Fear is tricky and it's sneaky. In fact, we may not even recognize the sensation of fear because we've become so used to it. We've become almost anesthetized to it all the while knowing that something is off, making us feel uneasy. We see fear in the workplace manifested through micromanagement, threats, unhealthy comparisons and competition, bullying, belittling, depression, and anxiety. So, why in the world would anyone choose to lead with fear? Well, because fear is something we've all learned. We know how to leverage fear, making it a comfortable method. Fear based tactics are the go to strategies, primarily because they're familiar. The key to shifting from fear to love is learning how to love with greater capacity than living in fear. Think of a scale with fear on one side and love on the other. Only when your love for something or someone becomes greater than your love for something else, then fear wins again. So ask yourself, do I love and respect my desire to go for that position more than my fear of being rejected? Do I love and value my goals to speak up with my ideas more than my fear of stepping out and possibly failing? Do I value the call to lead with compassion more than my fear of a negative response? Do you see how easy it is to put more value onto the side of fear? The great news is that we can learn a better way to lead by employing love-based strategies and techniques with tremendous sustainable results that are more powerful than fear-based models. We can learn to be irresistible leaders with the power of love. So like I said, I had to talk about fear when we talk about love. I've added a whole new chapter on creating a love-based organizational culture, describing the different layers of culture and how and what love in that looks like, and share a couple of examples of some of the work that we've done with some of our clients over the last 10 years, really helping to reshape their cultures to be much more love-focused. I have two more shares that I want to do with you, and then I'm happy to take any questions and open it up for Q&A if you have any questions. So one of my favorites that was in the first edition, and of course I had to repeat it in the second one, was a quote by the great Dr. Viktor Frankl, who wrote the book Man's Search for Meaning, which I highly recommend if you've not read that book. It's an incredible book. And so I had a beautiful quote by Dr. Frankl in the book. A thought transfixed me for the first time in my life. I saw the truth as it is set into song by so many poets, proclaimed as the final wisdom by so many thinkers. The truth that love is the ultimate and the highest goal to which man can aspire. Then I grasped the meaning of the greatest secret that human poetry and human thought and belief have to impart. The salvation of man is through love and in love. Just love the work of Dr. Frankl. Okay, so the last reading that I would like to share with you is from the afterword. I added an afterword in this edition. Again, just to talk about some of the work that we've done over the last 10 years and what else I've seen over the last 10 years. And I was talking about what has changed and what hasn't changed in the last 10 years. What has changed is love-based leadership. Many more books that advocate leading with love are now on the shelf. Dozens of articles that herald the effectiveness of leveraging love in the workplace have appeared over the last 10 years in well-known publications such as Forbes, Huffington Post, and professional journals such as Chief Learning Officer and the Journal of Business Ethics. Organizations such as Bayer, the Virgin Group, the B-Team, the U.S. Air Force, and Pepperdine University are boldly proclaiming the power of love in the workplace. Blogs galore and consulting firms across the globe now openly talk about the power of love-based leadership, leading with love, and love in the workplace as a differentiator for attracting and retaining talent, increasing productivity, morale, loyalty, and profits. With our clients, I see the destructive nature of fear and the powerful results of love in workplaces every day. What has changed is that using the most powerful force on the planet is more openly discussed than ever before. Perhaps we're getting close to the time when we can say that very powerful word and it won't freak people out. Love. Well, those are some of my favorite parts in the 10th anniversary edition. I want to thank you all so much for being here and for your support and your interest in leading with love. So I'm happy to open it up. If anybody has any questions or comments, we can take a minute or two to do that. I'm going to get a drink of water. Oh, thank you for your comments in there. Thank you, Brian, for posting about Tohono Chul. They're pretty awesome. Awesome organization. Wonderful. Thank you for your comments, Maria. Appreciate that. Thank you, Lynn. Wonderful. Okay, so I want you all to get back to your families. It's Sunday evening. And again, I thank you so much for your time and your support. And just to remind you again, if you would like your book signed, to please just send to concierge at drmariachurch.com your copy of your purchase receipt, what you would like to have, how you would like to have your book signed, and your mailing address so that we can send you your sticker to put into your book. So again, thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of Sunday. Bye-bye now.